happy to share. We have a tear in our eye for Deb leaving us, but we have a smile on our face that we have a new public policy director, Becca Gross-Teeter. Please stand. And Becca is with us today. Among other things, she is a lifelong Pinellas County resident. I think Pinellas County is just in her bones and marrow. And I think a fourth generation Floridian, so you don't find that. But she has spent her career in a variety of settings, but all relative to advocacy, public affairs, legislative analysis, and just in case anybody noticed the name, oh, by the way, Judge Gross is her father, or so now he has to say he knows you as opposed to the other way around. But anyway. But Becca started, what, about 10 days ago, give or take? Last Monday. Okay, so she's got it all down. No, but we wanted to have an overlap between Deb's time and our new public policy director, because there are some interesting and unique things about us being a special district and other both compliance issues as well as advocacy issues. So would you like to say a few words to the gang?
It would be my absolute privilege, most of all, to thank you for your leadership and service. And I look forward to learning from each of you, as I know I will, and it will serve JWB well. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Deb for her incredible generosity and my abundance of questions in the past 6 days, 7 days that we've been able to share together. And of course, Linda and Beth and really everyone for the culture that has been fortified here because of your leadership and the opportunity to continue to do great things. And I must say, with great admiration and somebody who has spent a lot of time in the business world, I do love our chair's understanding of let's get here, but let's see how high we can dream, because that's where I want to go. So thank you very much, and I hope to attempt to fill the shoes that have been set before me and to keep pace with the vision and needs of our community. So thank you, and I look forward to serving you all.
We are very excited about Becca joining us. Some months ago, I was kind of talking to a few of the leaders that I knew about possible folks for this position, and somebody I respect a whole lot said, "Oh, if you could get Becca Teeter." So anyway, I think she comes here not only with lots of skill, but with clear passion for kids, and we're gonna see that everywhere. Joining us on December 6th as our new Early Learning Initiatives Manager is Gail Ingraham. This is a new position that was part of the new positions you approved in this year's budget to support and focus on JWB's early childhood development strategic result area. She has a doctorate in education and extensive experience in things like kinship care, social service management, parent and community engagement, and quality assurance. She knows the field. She comes to us from the Children's Home Network, where, among other responsibilities, she implemented and managed the Early Learning Initiative, a United Way project for Alice families with kids between 0 and 3. So we are very excited about Dr. Ingraham joining us, and you will meet her at a future meeting. We've also been able to promote some folks from within, and that has always been an issue of concern at the Juvenile Welfare Board, because we're not really big and we have a lot of different types of jobs and skill sets across the whole organization. But as I've mentioned before, but I think it bears mentioning again, in August, Karen Bogus was promoted to Chief Program Officer. Karen is a 15-year veteran of JWB, where she has served in a variety of leadership roles. And besides the knowledge in those roles, we have folks with very different academic backgrounds, from accounting to social service, and sometimes we don't even know the same acronyms and talk the same language. And Karen is one of those great bridges across those things. We went out for a full search. We interviewed a whole bunch of people, and Karen absolutely shone and was at the top, was our top candidate. And so we're really happy to have her on board in this new position. She brings up, in particular, a wealth of government and human services experience, including expertise in quality early learning, mental health, program development and monitoring, and community capacity building and evaluation. So she's been both on the contract management side as well as on the evaluation side. So now Karen's position was open. Once again, we cast a wide net and looked for someone to fill the performance and evaluation manager position. And once again found that the star who would fill this position best is a 10-year veteran of JWB, Megan Seals. And so Megan was promoted into that position. She has extensive experience with JWB's data sets and strategic result areas, and has played a key evaluation role with JWB's Family Service Initiative, which, as you may remember, really was sort of outside the evaluation process. And so we needed to dig in and figure that out from the beginning. And Megan has done great work in that regard. And in a variety of ways, as strong people do, she has taken on other roles of leadership within the organization. So she is our new performance and evaluation manager. And we're also pleased then to share that Joanne DeLernia, who is approaching her 5th anniversary with JWB, has been promoted to Senior Technical Program Evaluator, filling Megan's vacant position. This is a hybrid position that includes both evaluation and the technical skills designed to strengthen communication and work between program evaluation folks and IT to strengthen JWB's strategic plan. So we're thrilled with each one of these really strong candidates, and we think their futures and therefore ours will be bright. I would have updated you on child welfare, but I think we did that. And we will continue to stay connected in every reasonable way possible. On October 28th and 29th, the Pinellas Community Foundation and Inclusivity LLC conducted a 2021 DEI conference, From Talking to Doing, Navigating a New America, and we supported that conference, and I served as a panelist on the opening session, along with Lanice Emanuel, Cal Jackson, and Eliza Punzlin-Randall. We had the opportunity to comment to the Senate Finance Committee. They were soliciting input relative to children's mental health and in some particular questions regarding different models for children's mental health. And as you know, that area was not under our consensus agenda, but it seemed right down the alley of something we should comment on. And so with our chair's permission, I did send a letter to that request by the U.S. Senate Committee on Finance for public comments on children and youth behavioral health. JWB's Children's Mental Health Initiative appeared to be right on point with their request. Specifically, we responded to their questions on improving access for children and young people. So that, as I said, that response letter was vetted with Mr. Mercuric, and we sent that. We realized that at that level, there are, piles of responses, so it may just add to the weight of one pile versus another pile, but we thought it was something that we ought to comment on. Yes, please.
The one thing that the letter actually I thought was said very well, and that was that the group was put together, a very nonpartisan, a community group that came together, was hospitals and educators and JWB and the like, that all came together to find a solution, to really work on mental health issues. And that group gelled and began to operate as a unit, focusing in on. And so what I saw from that was that we had the ability, because of that, had the ability to push aside any questions about who's getting what and who has what, what grants would be coming and the like, and everyone came together, including the hospitals, saying that they were generally focused on mental health of the children. They weren't focused on making more money out of this deal. They weren't trying to take over the world with it, but they were working together to create a better healthy environment. And I thought that was interesting and important to state, and that it was well written into the letter, to explain that it takes that effort. It took the effort here. It brought everyone together and put aside their differences and really focus in on the mental health of the children in our community.
And I think those of you who have been at this table longer than I have remember that it took a year or two just to be talking the same language and building trust and working together. A lot of effort was put into that before then, one might say, the more tangible work could begin. But without that, nothing really important was going to happen. And Linda gets big credit, as does Rebecca Albert, who focuses on this area. It gets down into the nitty-gritty, I guarantee you, to try to make things better for kids and create access for kids. But it's been done with, as Mike said, an amazing collaboration of all the parties here at the table. And what ultimately bubbled up as the first step to go on came out of that whole group. So it wasn't a matter of who gets the grant. It was what's the right next thing to do. And you've heard from Linda before about its success, and you'll hear about it again. But it's something we should be proud of in building that consensus in the community and then making tangible improvements. Something I'm not excited to tell you about, but I think you deserve to hear about is. We, after a thorough procurement process, JWB entered into a written agreement with a company called Central Square Solutions to replace our fiscal software, our general ledger, accounts payable, getting checks written, getting financial statements done. And we entered into that agreement after this procurement process in February 18th of 2020. Staff worked diligently with Central Square in the implementation process. We had strong reason to want to replace our old system. One, we were, as most businesses are, we were wanting to get all of our data and all of our processes into the cloud and to enhance the security of all of our systems, and the system we had been using was easily 20 years old and left a lot to be desired. Things had to be pulled out manually and then reworked. So we had good reason to do this. However, it has not gone well, to say the least. Our staff worked diligently in the implementation process with what was initially scheduled to be a go-live date of October 1st, 2020, so a full year ago, while continuing to maintain and work the existing system, Great Plains. So during that implementation process, staff experienced significant defects in the software, wherein the software did not meet JWB's requirements or Central Square's warranties and representations, including the software's inability to generate accurate financial statements, a pretty big deal. These defects, accompanied by significant turnover in the Central Square's personnel assigned to the project, resulted in a delay, and then the hoped-for go-live date was to be October 1st, 2021, a full year after the initial date. At the end of August 2021, given the significant difficulties we'd had, we got in touch with Zachary Mesa of Johnson Pope, one of Colleen's buddies, and he is the Johnson Pope attorney who reviews and works with us on all of our intellectual property and software procurements and contracts. So on August 30th of this year, Zach sent Central Square a notice of breach letter outlining the defects and giving Central Square 30 days to fix them per the contract. Central Square failed to fix all of those defects within 30 days, and JWB provided Central Square with a written notice of termination for cause of that agreement. To date, JWB has paid Central Square $117,805, and we have asserted that we want all of JWB's money returned, plus compensation for damage this has caused to JWB. The contract has a limitation of damage provisions of 2 times the contract value. The total contract is $172,080. So the contract requires that JWB and Central Square enter into a dispute resolution process to attempt to resolve the issues, which include good faith negotiations between the parties with at least 3 sessions to try to resolve any dispute. And at this time, we're scheduling those. If we can't resolve the dispute at the good faith negotiations meeting, we're then required to go to mediation. And then if we can't resolve it at mediation, we would litigate. However, we are hopeful that we will resolve it during the good faith negotiation process, and we'll continue to keep you updated. As you might imagine, and I'm looking at 4 attorneys sitting around this table, there's not much more that would be appropriate for me or anyone else to say, because this is in a mediation process or a resolution process, and we are trying meticulously to follow the contract in terms of what it requires for us to for our position to be upheld eventually. So if you happen to see one of our financial people, you know, give them a virtual hug, whatever. This has been a very hard year for them. They've tried very hard to make this work while continuing to put out monthly statements and pay bills and do everything else. That's all I had. There are, you know, we have issues on the information item agenda, if anybody was interested in pulling any of those.
Any comments or questions? If not, I would like to bring up one informational item because it does kind of connect to what I was talking about earlier about measurement and things that we may need to do. If you were to look at under the program and finance monitoring information, you will see the first item on there is 211 Tampa Bay Cares. It appears that, could you pull that up? Is that possible for you to pull up on the information items? Oh, okay, no problem. It's, if you looked, what it does is it basically talks about 211 being in the same continuous position that it has been, except it's gotten worse. We do not have control over that, yet we have had in the past measurements that said, go fix it. but understand that we can't do that on our own. Unfortunately, our county commissioner is not here, so we'd love to hear more about what the county is going to do. But that's one of the items, I think, as we start to look at as we move forward, is to say what's working and what's not. And what can we do if it's not working? What impact do we have as a board to address that? One thing we know for sure is we can't continue to let it go the way it is. We can't continue to support it. Options that we may have, and we talked about it at the executive committee, one option is to defund. And that's something we all, I think, need to think about. And that's, part of what I was trying to say in the past, earlier today, is as we're thinking about when we begin to measure, we're measuring for success, but we're also measuring those things that aren't working and being able to have the opportunity to do something about it. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I think it's very clear to all of us. Similar to Eckert, we've all had that same kind of issue. It's just not working, and the people in our community aren't getting the service that they deserve from this. So just wanted to bring that up as an item that I'd like to in the near future bring up for more discussion about what we as a board would recommend the team to do in this specifically to this issue.
One thing I'd want to just make clear by way of background is that more or less, the county and JWB provide the lion's share of the funding, roughly $1 million each. There are some other sources, but those are the big pieces. On our side, besides our supporting what I'll call the information and referral function of 211, 211 has also been the front door, the phone number for our Family Service Initiative. That hasn't worked particularly well, but we need a front door. So if we were to choose to defund 211, we would need to do something, put something else in place as that front door. That could go in a variety of directions. There are other social service agencies who have call centers for specific purposes who might be good fits. We have to remember that if we were to sole source it in that manner, we could get it up and running in a reasonably shorter period of time. On the other hand, if we put out a full procurement, that tends to take 8 or 9 months from beginning to end and then implementation. Tampa Bay does have lots of for-profit call centers of all types. So that is a possible path. A third path that wouldn't necessarily be my favorite, but it is a possibility, would be to bring that in-house and do the call center piece for FSI in-house.
Comment on that briefly. I would just encourage us to look to the county as well, because I know they're talking about centralizing services. And so if they're centralizing services, that we're trying to get people to access through 211, and that we're supporting those services, that it might behoove us to partner and figure out how do you get into that central.
And we are. We've been, we've been with them, pretty much shoulder to shoulder, they and the Foundation for Healthy St. Pete, and we have been talking about really a much higher level, you might call it 211 3.0, that would provide warm handoffs to providers. It's a very different animal than 211 is, but the county, I know, would hate to see, and if Karen were here, she would say, hate to see us splinter off in some direction so that we can't work together. And I agree, and that's a lot of the reason. A year ago, speaking of my goals, was basically fix 211.
And I think part of the problem too is that we phrase it in terms of doors. A lot of people have walked up to that 211 door and it's locked, and so
Right.
get them to come back to the door.
And this is,
Correct.
but to be quite honest, this is the responsibility of the county. We're a funder, we're not the funder, the county is leading, and we need to know exactly what the county plans to do. But I think we also have the ability to provide that input because of the amount of funds that we provide to it, and give them, our thinking, and also to use what we can leverage-wise to help it move more quickly, because it's not moving fast enough, at least from my perspective.
I think that this is another issue of, it's not necessarily vital to look in the rearview mirror, but in this case, I think we need to. That 211 has been an issue for years at this board, with board members who are no longer with us. And so my issue today is thank you for taking this to a higher level. And I would caution, or I don't know if caution's the right word, I would suggest that we make sure that the 211 board is hearing this from you, because we would not want them to hear rumors of what was discussed today without hearing from you that the scrutiny or the decision-making process around 211 is heightened. And so I think that would be important. They are respected leaders, and I'm always of the mindset, if we're talking about defunding or taking someone to a higher level of scrutiny, I think that board deserves to know before, ahead of the curve, not after the curve.
And as is the practice or your expectation of me, when we put 211 onto the cap, I called their chair. And frankly, I would suggest, because this is really a community-wide asset, that any of you speak to board members so that it's understood broadly between our board and theirs, that we're at anything but for a county-wide asset. If it were any other kind of program, we would have terminated it long before, we would have defunded it long ago. And to Ms. Malo's point, and and again, if Commissioner Seal were here, the reason for us not going that direction is that we don't want to further splinter something. But how long do we wait? That's a hard decision.
I would hope that, I think we need to ask to have in an upcoming meeting, whether it be in December or hopefully December, have an upcoming meeting and have a presentation on where are we, where we're going, both from 211 board, from their leadership, as well as the county, and there we're voicing our concern. We need to let them know ahead of time, which I believe we're doing, but we need to light a little more fire under this, that we're very concerned and have been for years, as you said, Susan.
Well, I think the point is we're spending taxpayer money and not
Exactly.
getting the results that we need.
Exactly.
And so I think, as any other contract, as any other dollar we spend, it's the responsibility of this board to make sure we're getting the services that we're paying for.
So I'd like to request that we have a presentation from both on the direction, on the planned direction of where 211 is going, with an emphasis of our concern.
And I would strongly recommend that come from a board member from 211 if you're inviting them here to speak.
And I think I heard, or what I think would be meaningful would be to hear from the county as well. So have both of those at that meeting, so we know what 211 is saying and we know what the county is talking about.
Be clear, we have 211 funded through this fiscal year, or are they on a contract that expires before that, or?
They're on a contract through the end of the year, through the end of our fiscal year. They are under a cap that expires the end of February.
Understood, okay. And they have performance milestones that they haven't met,
Correct.
and they're well aware of that. They've known that for the whole year they've been on the
Yeah,
cap, so.
Linda and
Okay,
her folks work with them all the time.
The unfortunate part is they've been under these on an ongoing basis and continue to have not met.
yeah, I just, I would anticipate that somebody that was in that position would be proactively coming to us as opposed to us coming to them. But I think we're going out of our way to be as fair and transparent as we possibly can be. Respecting our partnership with the county in particular is extremely important. But yeah, I look forward to hearing what they have to say. It's not looking too good.
Sarah is going to be bringing around, we made copies for the board of the corrective action plan that's in place now, and the financial program monitoring and the actual program monitoring that our staff did within the last 12 months. And we have future interviews scheduled and program monitoring for this year that will be happening soon. But just to give you sort of more of a historical perspective on the last year's review as well as the current action plan.
That went over well. We talked earlier, just as we were preparing, Beth and I were preparing with the team about this issue, and this one, I think, percolated to the top to make sure that we didn't miss the opportunity to really address it today. So, again, thank you all for your comments and your support with this. Let's see, we're now to open agenda. Do we have any comments or nothing? No cards. Okay. Then, before we go to adjournment, anniversaries, Mr. Butler?
Okay, let's get started with Sarah Winter, and that's a 3-year anniversary. Gail Christensen, 5 years. And Melissa Arquist, 7 years. And Win Fan, 10 years. And Lori Lewis, 12 years. We thank you for your service.
Okay, as you see on on your agenda, we have the list of the board meetings and other events that are coming up. So if there are no other business to be heard, the meeting's adjourned.